The Minnesota Wild are overcoming some injuries and fighting for position in their division. Seth Toupal of Locked On Wild joins us to talk about their struggles and their successes. All that and more coming up on the Locked On NHL podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome, everybody, to the Locked On NHL podcast. Gil Martin, so glad you could join us today, and thank you for making Locked On NHL your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. It is my pleasure to welcome back to the show the host of Locked On Wild, Seth Toupal. And Seth, big win for the Wild over the weekend, getting that losing streak out of the way in pretty dramatic fashion. How important was it for this team to stop that little mini slide with a win over a good Carolina team?
Well, it was a fantastic win because I think it helped just ease some of the tension that this team has been dealing with over the last couple of weeks. Goals have been hard to come by over the last several games, and it just hasn't been a season that has been filled with as many exciting and fun moments like we saw last year. And we saw the celebration after the win, and the game itself is a whole just massive story because Alex Goligoski was honored before the game for getting to the 1,000 career NHL games earlier this season, getting to that mark. So the ceremony was held before the game. Just a real emotional and fun ceremony. A lot of former players, former coaches. Lindy Ruff was one of the coaches that was interviewed for it, and so he had some well wishes. Just a ton of players kind of giving their best wishes to Goligoski, and of course, he ends up being the one that scores the OT winner to give the Wild the lift. And you know, he was emotional in the post game as well because he's been the guy, at least on defense, that has been kind of the odd man out for a good portion of the season, and obviously not something that anybody wants to really be in the situation of doing. But all of that kind of gets pushed to the side because the Wild get a really good goalie performance. They hold one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference to 2 shots in the third period. And they get just an exciting and an emotional win that I'm hoping is going to help kind of spark this team to, hey, we're not going to be able to win games the same way we did last year, but we should try to have a little fun while doing it. You can't be just robotic out there on the ice. And I think that hopefully showed that if they play the style that has helped them win games this year, which is to play tough physical defense and to try to limit opposing opportunities while getting good goaltending, it's a very replicable model for them to follow. It's just the offense has been more of a struggle, and hopefully this one can just kind of help get them going a little bit.
How important has Filip Gustavsson's play been to this team, especially in the absence of Marc-Andre Fleury?
Oh, it's been massive. And you look at what happened in the game against the Hurricanes. The one goal that he gave up was on a turnover in the neutral zone that ended up leading to a 2-on-1 against Carolina. And I don't care if you're Andrei Vasilevsky or Igor Shesterkin or any of the other top goalies in the NHL, it's hard to defend a 2-on-1. And so credit to the Hurricanes for taking advantage of that opportunity. Beyond that, Gustafsson was absolutely lights out. And the thing that I think helped turn the season around a little bit for the Wild was that Marc-Andre Fleury was actually winning them games with his goaltending performance. He was saving so many goals above expected that he was buying the offense time to be able to try to figure things out to where you don't have to try to figure out if your goalie gives up 3 goals right away. Okay, well, now we got to figure out how to score 4. If your goalie can give up 1 or 2, or none in some instances recently, that puts less pressure on your offense to where, hey, if we get one, whether it be a greasy goal, a power play goal, or an even strength goal, if we get one, we're probably going to win this game. And for him to be able to step up in what was a really good stretch for Fleury after he got hurt, that's been a huge key for this team. And I think it puts a lot of ease that they have capable goaltending, whether it be Fleury or Gustavsson, to be able to just navigate them through this until they can start to kind of figure out how to get the offense back.
One move the team did make to try to get the offense going is moving Sam Steele up to the first line. He responded with a pretty good first game, but what do you think his long-term outlook would be?
You know, I think the Wild are going to try him in that spot as long as they can get him going. You're waiting until Ryan Hartman is ready to return or from injured reserve, because he was starting to play some good hockey before he got hurt, to where maybe you can put him back up on that top line once he does come off of IR. But Steele gave a nice element of speed, and he has kind of that bottom six player mentality that you have to fight it out. You have to grind it out to get an opportunity and to play a meaningful minutes in this league. And so that translated with Kiprizov and Zuccarello. And he obviously made the most of the opportunity with the game-tying goal on a great feed from those two guys, and then sets up Goligoski on the game winner. I think he definitely has the skill set to be able to stay with those two. The question is just going to be the production. If that slows at all, then I think the Wild will look to other outlets. They're just going to keep trying things until they find something that consistently sticks.
Who would some of the other candidates potentially be?
So I would like to see Marco Rossi get an opportunity to do that. His minutes have been few and far between sometimes in his first full season at the NHL level. Now, there have been a few games in which he hasn't maybe done anything to warrant additional playing time, but at the end of the day, he's a playmaker. And I think if you put a playmaker between two other playmakers, that's just going to lead to everybody having fun at the table and being able to score a ton of goals. Beyond that, I had thrown out the possibility just to try to get Matt Boldy going of throwing him at center. They've used that line combo after successful penalty kills at points this season. It'd be something worth trying for a game or two just to see if it's a combo that can work. But ultimately, whether it be Sam Steele, whether it be Marco Rossi, whether it be Joel Eriksson Ek, giving that another try, ultimately, I think they're all just kind of keeping the seat warm until Ryan Hartman's ready to come back.
Is there a timetable for that?
I have not really seen one, and it's unfortunate because, as I alluded to, he was playing some of his best hockey for the few games before he got hurt, was starting to look more like the Ryan Hartman of last year, and so it comes just at the absolute worst time. And whether it be a wrist injury or a shoulder injury, obviously the timetables differ for that a little bit, but as of right now, it's looking like his prognosis is more long-term. But in the good news department, it does sound like Jordan Greenway should be ready to return this week. Marc-Andre Fleury is making some good progress to where maybe by the end of the week, he might be able to start looking at a return to the lineup. So while the news on Hartman has yet to really be ironed out, at least there is some good news injury-wise that's coming for this team.
All right, some reasons for optimism in the Twin Cities. Seth, why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners where they could find the podcast and where they could find you on social media?
Locked On Wild is your best bet, and the best part about it is that all you have to do is search Locked On Wild. You'll find all of the social media accounts. You'll find what we are doing on YouTube as well. Make sure that you follow along if you have any interest level in the Minnesota Wild or in Minnesota hockey in general. We're trying to kind of branch out to some of that as well. So all things Minnesota Wild hockey, we've got you covered, and we're doing that with new episodes every Monday through Friday at Locked On Wild.
All right. Seth, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming by today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at SimpliSafe. If you've thought about securing your home with home security, but you've been putting it off, you'll want to listen up. Right now, Locked On NHL listeners can get the #1 rated SimpliSafe home security system for 50% off. This is their biggest offer of the year, and you won't want to miss it. Here's why I love it. In an emergency, you get 24/7 professional monitoring agents using Fast Protect technology, which is exclusively from SimpliSafe. It captures critical evidence and verifies that a threat is real so you can get a priority response. SimpliSafe is whole home security with advanced sensors for every room, window, and door, HD security cameras for inside and out, smarter ways to detect motion that alert you only when a threat was real, and even hazard sensors that detect things like fires, floods, and other threats to your home. Don't miss your chance to save big on the only home security system I recommend. Get 50% off any new SimpliSafe system at simplisafe.com/LockedOnNHL today. This is their biggest discount of the year, so don't wait. That's simplisafe.com/LockedOnNHL. There's no safe like SimpliSafe.